Everybody hear me okay? I'd like to say good morning to everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dustin Stewart, the acting SPEHA. Before we kind of get into a few remarks, just have to say a few thank yous in particular for our co-hosts today, the Foley Foundation, Diane Foley, the McCain Institute, New America, and the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. I also have to thank our SPEHA colleagues. In an event like this, seeing so many people in the room, as you can imagine, behind the scenes, there's a lot of effort that goes into pulling this together. So for every officer in the SPEHA office who has jumped in over the past week, really appreciate your effort to do that, and across the department, you guys sitting in the back as well. I have to thank everybody for being here today. It's incredibly amazing to see so many people here. I think when we did this a year ago, it felt like there was a fraction of the people in the room. And I think this really speaks to sort of just this issue and how important it is in the community that we've built here over the years. You know, I look across, I see former hostages and detainees, their family members, members of the Hill, staffers on the Hill, everyone who's played such an important role in this space to bring people home are here in this room, and this is incredible to see. You know, I joined this space 10 years ago, and you know, Diane was one of the first people I met, and none of this existed. And I think it's rare in US government that we can admit when we mess up. You know, 10 years ago, we were not postured to address this issue. We were not postured to bring people home the way we should. We weren't postured to support the families the way we should. 10 years later, the leaps and bounds that we have made is just incredible. And it's not just the US government that does it. It's not just the SPEHA office. It's not just our partners at the HRFC. It's not just our partners at the White House and the HRG. It's literally everybody in this room. We cannot do this without you, and I thank everybody here for your support, sometimes good, for pushing us, which can be tough sometimes, but again, look, we love it. It's what motivates us, so I thank you for that. But 10 years later, we're always trying to be better. We know that the enterprise isn't perfect. We know that there are things that we're still working on, but that's why we're here today, to make sure that the space continues to evolve and grow to meet the needs that our hostages, that our families need. So again, just as you rely on us, we're gonna rely on everybody here for your continued support and your continued pushing us. So this is the second time that we've been able to do this department to sort of observe Hostage and Wrongful Detention Day. Again, I expect this to grow bigger and bigger every year. So I'm going to look to the folks up here on the stage to help us do that, to make sure that we're bringing continued awareness to these cases, to this space, literally until we bring everybody home. So before we kind of move on and I introduce the representative here, we're going to play a short video for everyone's to take a look at.
On behalf of the President, I can tell you he's strongly and deeply committed to the goal of every single hostage returning home, every single one, and not resting and not being silent and not forgetting until all of them are home.
So I think one of the amazing things that you see through that video is the continuity and how important this issue is across administrations, across party lines. And as I said, one of our biggest supporters and advocates in this space has been Congress. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Representative Haley Stevens from Michigan, co-chair of the Hostage Caucus, and again, a great supporter of everybody in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, and good morning. There is truly no place I'd rather be than with all of you on what is a very momentous, important, and tragic and essential American Day. We are here to recognize that March 9th, which is falling on a weekend, is indeed the day that we have designated as a country to recognize American hostages and Americans wrongfully detained abroad. And I want all of you to know something. In the United States Congress, this is part of the most important work we do. It is the most unifying work that we do, and it is work that yields outcomes. And I want to recognize Dustin for explaining the decade march that we've had as a country and the change that we've made. But I'd also really like to recognize some of the families, the Levinson family, the Tice family, and so many others of you who have been on too long of a journey. Your interests and your impact has been felt and it has been made in the nation's capital and for the world. And when I say that this is the most important work we do, it is because it is a human issue. It is a humanitarian issue. It is not only just an American issue, it is an issue for the world. And it is an amazing call to action. I would just like to walk you all through some of the legislative efforts that have been happening and that have continued to happen in the Congress. Last term, at the very end of last term, after we did receive some successes, and again, you know that you are doing good and on the right side in what the Washington Post dubs as the most polarizing and ineffective Congress, that you actually get several bills passed in the Congress. One was in the National Defense Reauthorization in 2023, which we got to declare March 9th is officially designated as National Hostage and Wrongful Detainee Day. We also established the resources for the families. Again, so many of you who have traveled here today, not for the cameras, not for the attention, but for the advocacy on behalf of your family member, and your family member who represents this country and the United States of America. And so we're pleased that we now have a hostage flag to recognize the individuals, to make sure that they are not forgotten, to remind people when someone like Mark Foley gets brought home, when someone like Paul Whelan gets brought home, when our hostages that have been held in Gaza, and yes, we've been seeing hostages return, and we're pleased to see that, but we also know that there are still about 60 still there. We still know that there are 5 Americans still there. We need to say their names. We need to recognize these individuals. And so that is what this flag means for the world and for our nation. At the end of the term, we also, alongside, even though you don't introduce bills with a department in the federal agency, but this really aligns with the work that Dustin and SEPHA is doing. We introduced the Countering Wrongful Detention Act. I want you all to know that this was done alongside 2 senators, Senators Coons and Rich, along with French Hill, Congressman French Hill, who is the co-chair. I work alongside French, as the co-chair of the Task Force on American Hostages and Americans Wrongfully Detained Abroad. I share that with you. I emphasize that because it is bipartisan, it is bicameral. A war broke out in Israel on October 7, 2023, we saw the effects of this war impacting even our own nation. Rising anti-Semitism, rising Jew hatred, rising attacks on just individuals who are Jewish because people disagreed with an attack on the Jewish state. You maybe have paid attention to that we took hundreds of votes last term in the Congress around Israel. And I just want to share that right after the war began, I started drafting a resolution condemning Hamas, calling for the return of the hostages. Condemning Hamas, calling for the return of the hostages. It was mirrored off of, I had a template. Tragically, I had a template for that resolution because we had done that resolution 3 times over for my constituent, Paul Whelan, who after lots of days, 5.5 years, wrongfully detained, wrongfully held in a Russian prison. We were condemning Russia, calling for the release of Paul Whelan. So we took that template of a resolution, obviously matched it to the time period, and we contacted French Hill, who immediately wanted to join, obviously, and support this effort. We were getting bipartisan, then we're getting a lot of people on this resolution. And our friends here, in the State Department, our friends at the Reagan Institute in particular, said we need to get this passed. We'd like to see this get passed. Reagan Institute was really weighing in because, just to be partisan for a minute, I'm a Democrat, I'm in the minority party. So, it's not that I have the privilege to really push a bill to the floor, but it's always a delight when you can go up to Steve Scalise and say, I've got my friends at the Reagan Institute behind a bill, behind this resolution. And so Scalise gave us the commitment that he was going to move the resolution to the floor, and this happened the Tuesday after Thanksgiving 2023. Why am I explaining this? Because the resolution moves to the floor under suspension, so it wasn't debated under a rule, it was just something we were going to put on the floor. It only needed 2/3 of the Congress. It gets put on the floor, and the votes start coming in. Yes, 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 yes. Every single voting member of Congress that day, my friends, voted to condemn Hamas and call for the release of the hostages. I share that because what do we always hear? The polarizing differences about this war, the debates, which is not a debate to me to provide aid and resources to our friends in Israel and obviously the innocent and those suffering in Gaza. It took us to April of the following year to get the foreign aid package done. That was for Ukraine, Israel, and actually some bit of Taiwan. But on that day, everyone joined together. And I was on the floor of the House, I was saying, this is remarkable. This is remarkable that this is happening. We need to sing this from the mountaintops, that everyone is voting for this resolution. So here I stand with all of you on what is a profound and an important and essential day, and still sharing that story. Please continue to join me in sharing it. We had this establishment of the SEPHA 10 years ago. We've gotten the Robert Levinson Act in 2020, and we continue to salute and be so grateful for the Levinson family and their work, and alongside the Foley Foundation as well. It is, these started as foundations. And when the McCain Institute and the foundations and the support and what the families have been able to pull together, a responsibility that bestow you because of a tragedy. And so we remain grateful and we remain encouraged about getting the prevention efforts passed and done, looking at more compensation efforts, measures small, big, and large, and remembering that we took this time to join in the State Department, and we made it through security, and thank you to the State Department for getting us all in the door to be here today, because we will continue to join together around March 9th. and in support of these hostages, but the day will come where these activities will be minimized because of our deterrence efforts and because of the way in which we support the families. We remain united around the tenets of democracy, open free markets, and who we are as individuals in a free and fair nation. So at this point, what I'd like to do is introduce Pedro Pisano from the McCain Institute, who is also going to share some remarks on behalf of French Hill. They're probably more eloquent than mine, but we'd like to hear from Pedro on behalf of Mr. Hill. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Congresswoman Stevens. What a great honor to be here and with all of you today. My name, as the Congressman said, is Pedro Pisano. I work at the McCain Institute. Inspired by Senator John McCain's 5.5 years in prison and his lifelong advocacy for all those unjustly held, we have just launched the John McCain Freedom for Political Prisoners Initiative with a lot of you here. So I want to recognize Jason, who's there in the back. I want to recognize Siamak, who's there as well, and many of you who are on the panel and everyone else. So Congressman French Hill sent us a letter for this event today, so it is my great honor to read it to you. Congressman French Hill is a 9th-generation Arkansan, and he has represented Arkansas' 2nd Congressional District since January 2015. He serves as the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee in this Congress and is the co-chair of the Hostage Task Force with Congresswoman Stevens. March 6, 2025. Dear distinguished guests, thank you all for being here today. A special thank you to the Department of State and Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs, SEPHA, for putting on this event with so many wonderful sponsoring organizations. I send my regrets for being unable to attend today's event. As co-chair of the Hostage Task Force, I remain committed to bringing Americans home and ensuring their smooth and seamless transition back into daily life. Of course, the work the Hostage Task Force does would not be possible without the people and organizations such as yourselves here today. Your advocacy and support has been vital in not only shaping the issues, their narrative, and giving them meaning, but also in helping get real solutions across the finish line. For example, the Supporting Americans Wrongfully or Unlawfully Detained Abroad Act, which Representative Haley Stevens and I worked to have included in the 2024 NDAA, helped families who traveled to Washington, D.C. to advocate for their wrongful detained loved ones by working to reduce their financial hardships. Without your merit and your willingness to share your stories, this bill may not have passed. As Congress continues its work on these issues, we hope to bring every American wrongfully detained home safely, but we cannot do so without your continued advocacy and support. I am grateful that we have Hostage and Wrongful Detainee Day. This day, which was officially recognized for the first time last year, serves as an important day of commemoration for those wrongfully held and detained abroad, as well as their families. Recently, we have seen the Trump administration take real steps to bring Americans home. I applaud these efforts and look forward to working with him and his administration to help bring home more Americans. I am confident that President Trump will continue the success from his first term, especially as awareness for hostages and wrongful detainees has been raised. During the Trump administration, I believe we can continue to improve in the areas of recovery, deterrence, and justice in the work done moving forward. However, I also believe we cannot let Americans be used as pawns by our adversaries or wrongfully held without punishment. We should continue to increase transparency in Congress and support for impacted families. Thank you all again for being here today and for your continued advocacy on behalf of those who have come home and those who are still held hostage or wrongfully detained overseas. We all share the goal of wanting to bring every American that's been wrongfully held or detained home. I am proud to be part of this work. It could not be done without you. Sincerely, French Hill, Member of Congress. And now it is my honor to introduce the mother of hostages. Thank you, Congresswoman Stevens.
Gotta go vote.
It's my honor to introduce the mother of hostages and probably the person who most catalyzed this hostage enterprise. It's especially relevant this year because it's 10 years of PPD 30 on June 24, 2025. She turned tragedy into purpose, and as the mother of a hostage, and then Sarah, the daughter of wrongful detainee, they together and everyone here, and Doug Levinson as well, they created what is today's hostage enterprise. So without further ado, the great, the only, and the mother of all hostages, Diane, thank you for being here.
Goodness, it is such an honor to be here today. Really miraculous in many ways. All you good people. Today, March 6, we are here, gathered here to remember. March 9th was chosen in memory of Robert Levinson, a former FBI agent who was kidnapped in Iran in 2007. And so we all gather to remember. And I just want to, this is miraculous to me because in 2012, when our son Jim, who was a conflict journalist in Syria, was kidnapped, there was no hostage enterprise. There was no SEPHA office, no fusion cell, nobody at the White House whose job it was to help us. There was just no one. And so I feel we stand on the shoulders of all of those who did not come home. So if you would bear with me, I just wanted to take a moment to remember some of our brave Americans taken captive abroad who never came home. If we could just take a moment. Daniel Pearl from Pakistan in 2002. Robert Levinson, Iran in 2007. James Foley, Stephen Sotloff, Peter Kasich in Syria in 2014. Kayla Mueller, Syria 2015. Luke Summers, Yemen 2014. Paul Overby, Afghanistan 2014. Warren Weinstein, Pakistan 2015. John Heyman in Yemen 2015. Layla Shukani, in Syria of 2016. Maj Kamalmaz, Syria 2018. Mustafa Qasem, Syria 2020. And most recently, we've had 5 Americans I want to acknowledge. Itai Hen in Gaza in 2023. Gadi Hagai, Gaza, 2023. Judy Weinstein Hagai in Gaza, 2023. Omer Nutra, Gaza, 2023. And Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, 2024. Anything we do right, all of you good people who have come home, you are their legacy. We stand on their shoulders today. The Foley Foundation also wants to warmly welcome President Trump's new administration, our new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor to the President, Michael Waltz, and our new Special Envoy for Hostage Affairs, Adam Boldner. We commend the seamless handover between Biden and Trump administrations that has enabled hostage recoveries to continue without any pause or any break. On President Trump's first day in office, 2 fellow Americans, Ryan Corbett and William McKenty, were released from Afghanistan, followed by 6 U.S. nationals from Venezuela, facilitated by Special Envoy Gradel. 2 Israeli hostages, Keith Siegel and Sagi Dekelhen, from their captivity by Hamas. Mark Fogel's release from Russia followed, assisted by Special Envoy Witkoff. And 2 U.S. nationals all have been released by Belarus in this first month of this administration. This represents a record pace of returns by any administration to date. While not all were labeled as wrongfully detained, it's clear that this administration is prioritizing the lives of American captives, which is both heartwarming and so hopeful to me. We estimate there are at least 33 Americans who remain hostage today. And we have some of their families, like Adan's family. Ida's here on behalf of Zach. Debbie's here on behalf of Austin. So many families still waiting and hoping that we can bring them home. We're so grateful to our new Special Envoy for Hostage Affairs, Adam Boldner, for passionately speaking out about the threat of international hostage-taking, for getting the media to focus on individual cases like George Glinsman, who's also here today, his family. This is particularly important because often the media doesn't actually know all the people who are being held behind the scenes, such as when Mark Fogel was released from Russia and Andrei Khachaturian was not mentioned by the media. So it's very important, as Representative Stevens said, that we must know their names. We must tell the media, inform who are these citizens, innocent Americans, who are being held by others. We must keep them at the top of our mind and hearts. And I also agree with Adam's public comments that our government should consider publishing accurate, unnamed statistics of these kidnappings and wrongful arrests to raise awareness in our country of the risk to U.S. nationals traveling abroad. I, too, thank the State Department, all of our hosts, and I thank our wonderful partners, Hostage US, the McCain Institute, Hostage Aid Worldwide, New America, the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. We need everyone. We need CSIS, we need NGOs and private partners all working together, because this is a very complex national security threat and very difficult to resolve. Every one of you who are home today has been the work of hundreds and thousands of Americans who've cared for you and made it happen. So I'm just proud of the United States of America for finally demonstrating that moral courage that Jim aspired to. The moral courage to protect our citizens abroad and to dare to do whatever it takes to bring them home. So I look forward to working with all of you to bring our fellow citizens home while collaborating to deter international hostage-taking. And now I have the great pleasure and honor to introduce my dear friend and colleague, Sarah Levinson Moriarty, who is now a fellow at the New America's Future Security Program, daughter of Robert Levinson, a relentless advocate for American hostages, who has truly was hugely instrumental in making this day happen, the flag, and the Robert Levinson Hostage Recovery and Hostage Taking Accountability Act. She is on the advisory board of the Foley Foundation, Hostage US, CSIS, and has been a huge advocate. So, Sarah Moriarty.
They're leaving before I even speak. Jeez, no. Actually, it was my job to dismiss them and say, please, can we have our panelists come up and join us? It's such an honor to be here and incredible to be celebrating such an important day of awareness for a cause that's really important to me and my family. We've been watching this horrible phenomenon for over the past 18 years this Sunday, and we believe no family should ever have to suffer in this way, and yet they still are. Through all of this advocacy, and many of you here in the room today, we're aiming to spread awareness of the issue, lessen the burden, bring them home, and finally to enact justice and deterrence on this horrible practice. Thank you to our great speakers so far, and I'm proud and honored to introduce you to our panelists for this discussion. Since October 7th, 2023, when their son Idan was taken hostage, his parents, Adi and Yael, have been unwavering in their relentless efforts to secure his release. He is the last American hostage held by Hamas right now. From the very first days of his captivity, they have mobilized every possible resource, engaging in diplomatic efforts, advocating for international intervention, and ensuring that Idan's story remains at the forefront of global consciousness. Despite the agonizing uncertainty and emotional toll of this ordeal, Adi and Yael refuse to give up. Their determination is fueled by an unbreakable love for their son and an unwavering belief that he will return home. As negotiations continue, they remain steadfast in their mission to bring Idan home safely, to ensure that no hostage is forgotten, and to fight for justice in the face of unimaginable hardship. Alsu Kurmasheva is a journalist and editor at Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, where she has reported extensively on cultural and human rights issues in Russia's Volga-Ural region. She first joined Radio Free Europe in 1998 as a radio program moderator and has since built a career covering the experiences of ethnic minorities in Russia. Her reporting is also focused on gender issues with an in-depth investigation into domestic violence and women's rights. In October 2023, Alsu was detained in Russia and charged with failing to register as a foreign agent. In August 2024, she was released as part of a prisoner exchange that also saw the return of fellow Americans Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan. Following her release from detention in Russia, Alsu has emerged as a vocal advocate for press freedom, drawing on her own experience of imprisonment to highlight the risks journalists face in authoritarian regimes. And last, but absolutely not least, Liz Cathcart is the executive director of Hostage US, where she has been instrumental in running the organization since its inception. She oversees the organization's strategic vision, providing vital support to hostages, detainees, and their families. Liz has been featured in major media outlets, and in 2023, she was recognized as one of Security Magazine's most influential people in security. Liz is a senior advisor for the Atlantic Council's Counterterrorism Project, and she's on the advisory council as well of the McCain Institute's Freedom for excuse me, I'm just a normal person, so I always mess up. Freedom for Political Prisoners Initiative. So I'm going to start the discussion. I'm going to come sit down with you. If I can ask just to make sure. Yes, thank you. I was going to say if you want to put it on the edge so that you can see and nothing gets cut off, so everybody can see your names. As Diane kindly said, names are really important. Here I am, I'm back. On a serious note, Adi, today we're marking U.S. Hostage and Wrongful Detainee Day. Your son Idan remains the last American awaiting release by Hamas. Can you tell us about Idan and what this day means to you, knowing you're still fighting to bring him home and that every single day matters?
Yeah, I'll just be speaking to this microphone. Just a small correction about the last living American. We have 4 more bodies of an American that being held, which is a twisted and sick thing by itself. But it is what it is. We're dealing with a very tough opponent, to say the least, and the job is not done yet. The way the deal was constructed, he basically we ended the truce period of 42 days. The deal wasn't perfect, but that was the only one, the only one we had. So the parties kind of jumped on it, and really the new task is to reshuffle the cards. As you see is happening, basically, with yesterday's tweet and everything that is being leaked to the media in the past couple of days. So just to reshuffle the cards, start over, and maybe bring a better deal. So that's our hope.
Thank you. And Yael, so many here at the State Department and in the U.S. government are thinking about hostages every single day. It's rumored that Secretary Rubio had made it clear in his first week in office to everyone at the State Department to give full support to the SEPHA office. Many of us as partners of today's events are also thinking about you every day. In 2023, when the stay and the flag were established, all of us sought out every way possible to use this as a means to bring visibility to hostages, to hopefully help them ultimately bring them home. What does it mean to you this day?
I'm just going to say that I'm sorry. It's very tough for me. I'm not used to be a public speaker, and unfortunately for the last 17 months, this is exactly what I'm doing over and over and over, just erasing this, talking about my son, fighting to bring him home, and fighting to bring all the hostages that are still in captivity in Gaza. This is something that I didn't imagine we are going to be as a family. But I'm feeling it, you know. I'm feeling that everyone is with us. The Americans are doing whatever they can to bring this issue to the end. We are front and center, especially about Idan. Everyone is speaking about Idan and the other Americans that are still there. Omer Nutra, Itai Chen, Judy, and Gadi Weinstein Hagi. And I'm feeling it, you know. I'm feeling, so this is the time, and maybe it's gonna happen to us. I'm also gonna see my son again, and we are gonna reunite with him. You know, I'm keeping the hope.
I believe it.
Yes.
As someone who has come home to us also, what does this day mean to you, having lived this nightmare? What does it feel like to be free again? And welcome home.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I held the flag for the first time in my life last year, August 1st, when I was released from Russian prison after 288 painful days. And I reunited with my family here in the United States. And this flag was introduced to me by amazing SEPHA family. And I call them not a team, but a family, because we are a family, we are a community. When I was in prison, I had no idea there was such a big community of an advocacy work on my behalf. As you know, I wasn't, many of you might know that I wasn't designated as wrongfully detained immediately. I got that designation when I was in the air to the United States after my release. And that was actually used against me in prison as a psychological pressure against me. The captors would say that, look, they haven't designated you because nobody wants you there. And when a person is absolutely isolated from the free world, the feelings would take over, and I would think in that tiny prison cell, looking at the ceiling for hours, like, what if that's true? What if nobody's fighting for me there? And when I came back, I was left speechless at the level of the campaign. And thanks to this community, I'm here, I'm sharing this stage with remarkable people. I see many faces, familiar faces who fought for me, and thank you, Diane, thank you, everyone. And so this flag, as I celebrate freedom every minute of my life now, this flag reminds me and everybody I know that there are still people people we know, real people with families and children in dark prison cells right now. And there are journalists working for RFE. There is Nika Novak, a young woman serving a 4-year sentence in Russia. There is Ihar Losik, he has spent more than 4 years in prison in Belarus. There is Vlad Yasipenko, is held by Russian authorities in occupied Crimea. There is Farid Mirhalizadeh, is facing a sham trial in Azerbaijan. They are not Americans, they are journalists who were telling America's story abroad and who were making Americans safe here at home. This is what it means for me. I will never forget, and I'm happy to be part of this community.
Thank you, Alsu. Liz, it's been 1 year. It's been 1 year since the creation of this day and this flag being codified into law. In your conversations that you've been having with private industry, with returnees and with their families and with those fighting to bring their families home, what's the reception been?
Thanks, Sarah. And first, I just want to thank you for joining everyone together, and you three for being on this panel. It's incredibly powerful for this room to hear your stories, and just know that we are here with you and we stand in solidarity. And I think if I could just say what it personally means to me is just that, right? It is a symbol of solidarity of the 150, I'm bad at estimating people, in this room, and the thousands more that will see the flag flying for the next week on Hostage and Wrongful Detainee Day. It's a call to action for people who don't know what the day means and what the flag is, to ask them to look into the issue, to understand what it is that these Americans are going through, what it means for these families to fight for their loved ones every single day. I think for me, the most powerful symbol of the flag is the resiliency of families and the relentless advocacy that families have to pursue every single day to get their loved one home. And it's a remarkable statement, and it's shown here in this room and with my panelists. So I just wanted to share that. The reception of the flag from our standpoint, and I'm lucky enough to represent all of the NGO community here, not just Hostage US, the organization that I represent. The reception has been fantastic. It's been a really meaningful point of solidarity and a moment for the community to come together to continue momentum that we have throughout the year and make sure that we are checking ourselves to make sure that we're doing everything that we can for families and for those who are still held. And I would encourage the momentum coming from this room to continue in the weeks to come and help the families who are still fighting for their loved ones to fight harder and fight louder.
Absolutely. Adi, I'm guessing the microphone's not working. Oh, there's. I don't mind getting close, you know. I've been observing your advocacy for some time, and over the past 16 months, it's been extraordinary. President Trump and his team, including Secretary Rubio, have made it clear that bringing all hostages home, especially Idan, is a top priority for this administration, as recently as a very incredible tweet yesterday. Today's observance signals that even more so. What has all of this meant to you as Americans?
First of all, the President speaks about this issue with a total moral clarity, and we're grateful that he took ownership on this subject. And I think that's the way to speak the Middle Eastern language. But I want to tell you like a little story from the tunnels. So when Idan was taken into the tunnels, it was a huge compound, underground compound. So they were almost 50 hostages altogether at the first couple of days. And he sat with this incredible woman, 72 years old, Adina Moshe, and he told her that he's an American, and he thinks that he will be out first. And then he tried to mediate between some Thai workers, explaining Hamas that these are the Thai workers and they don't have an Israeli passport, they should go. And a lot of small stories. So really our wish that, and this is what the kid knows. He knows he's an American. He doesn't know, it's not like me, half Israeli, half American. He's like 100% American kid. So this is what he knows. So we have to make sure that he doesn't go the last, because he's an IDF soldier. So that's the only wish we have.
Thank you, Adi. And Yael, I know we talked about some of the things, but I'm going to go off script, and I hope that's okay. I just want you to tell us about Idan.
Idan is my oldest kid. When they kidnapped him, he was only 19. Very loving, very fun, very funny guy. Like Idan, you're sitting with him, you're laughing the whole way. Like, he's so much fun. He had tons of friends. He loved to host in our house the pregame before parties. He was such a good brother. He's had 2 siblings, Mika. She's 2 years younger than him, so they practically grew up together. They were starting to be like very close friends during the high school years, like going to drives, speaking, like telling secrets to one another. They're really close. And with Roy, now he's 13, Roy's the little one, he loves him so much. Like, I've been in Israel on October 7. I came to visit Idan to spend time with him for 1 week. It's a holiday. And I'm seeing Idan's iPhone, and I see in his lock screen my little one, Roy, picture after his first haircut with the lollipop. And I'm asking Idan, seriously, this is your lock screen photo? And he told me, listen, Roy's the cutest baby ever. I'm open the phone every time and I'm see him, you know, and this is Idan. It was all family, all heart. Like, whatever we are doing, we're going to the city, to New York, we're going to the lake to just be, you know, on our boat. He wants to come and to spend time with us, and it's amazing. And after he's been kidnapped, even though we got a lot of testimonial that people saw Idan, and even someone hugged him, you know, on October 7. He was so, like, calm and relaxed, and make sure that everyone knows that they're all civilians and they'll all be released soon. One of the hostages told him, Idan, can I give you a hug? Like, she asked permission, and she told me, I hugged your son, you know, and it was like so meaningful to know that even in this darkest time inside Hamas tunnels, he got a hug. And then Hamas released a video last Thanksgiving. Again, I've been in Israel. This is Idan's favorite holiday, so I said to my husband, listen, I'm leaving you with the kids in Jersey, and I have to be close to Idan. And Hamas released a video of Idan, and it was after 421 days that I didn't see or hear nothing from my son. So it was amazing to see how he's been, how he looked, and still we are hoping that he's still surviving and he's still strong and he's still like focusing that his day will come and he will be released soon. And this is it. This is Idan, very optimistic guy and very funny and very, very good. Like, he's got a good soul.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you
I'm
so
an
much.
optimistic person too, and I hope to see him soon. I hope we can all see him soon.
Amen. Thank you.
I just have to point out that my own brother was 13 when my dad was taken, and he's in the room today, and he's been an incredible advocate ever since. So I think those bonds with 13-year-olds are important. And I really do believe that this administration feels so strongly about bringing people home, and that's what this day is all about. Also, as someone who we have seen come home, I want to point out there's an incredible photo of you with Paul Whelan and Evan Gershkovich that you're celebrating and holding the flag in Texas when you came home. Can you tell us a little bit more about that moment and what it was like?
The moment was surreal. It was something I've imagined, like every time I would think about it, how my release, how my freedom, my first moments of freedom would look like, and it surpassed all my expectations. It was a wonderful moment of recognizing and acknowledging of actually hope. Thank you for sharing a story about Idan. And I remember my husband telling me that he was here talking on my behalf last year, and I was in prison, and I didn't know about that. Let it be exactly the moment of us talking about all hostages. They don't know it, but they feel it as much I felt it. I had those moments of energy and hope in prison. All of a sudden, I didn't know why suddenly I felt that hope. But then I later realized that hope needs to be backed by a strategy. And you guys here in the free world had a strategy. We have a strategy backed up, supported by the US government. So I really enjoyed the moments when just recently Mark Vogel came and was released from Russia. I was the happiest person on earth when Andrei Kuznechik, my colleague from RFERL, was released from Belarus after 3.5 years in Belarus prison and hugged his children. So that happened all thanks to President Trump's administration, and we are hopeful. But also we know that there is a strategy to bring our loved ones home. And I really mean it. I'm happy to be part of this strategy and this community, and I'm awestruck by the years of hard work. It's only 10 years that whole this infrastructure, my colleague, has been built, and it's working. And including Sarah, thank you very much for doing this, to creating this Levinson Act and other pieces of legislation that allow our government to do what it takes to bring Americans home. This is what I feel. This is why it's so important. But the moment of my release was truly the happiest moment of my life, and I still feel that.
It's incredible. We're so happy you're home.
Thank you.
And thank you for that recognition, but I would be remiss if I didn't recognize that there are so many in this room today who contributed to the Levinson Act and all of the progress that we've made over the past, for me, it's been 18 years, and there's so many of you in this room, and it's not lost on me to see all of you here today. It's really meaningful. Liz, I know we've talked about some businesses and the progress we're seeing in awareness of today, well, Sunday, and awareness of the flag and seeing it actually flown on the days that it's codified into law, which are March 9th, Flag Day on June 14th, the 4th of July, the Independence Day, which is also one of my son's birthdays, and my boys are in the room today. So I had to give them a call out. Also, any day when an American comes home from captivity, or any day we recognize when an American does not come home from captivity. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the businesses and what we're hoping the public's response will continue to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say thank you for sharing Don's story. It was incredibly powerful, and without a doubt, his personality will shine even where he is, and no doubt he's helping the others still held. And also to you, thank you for sharing your moment of reintegration into America. It's a powerful moment, and one that the flag flies as well when you're released and somebody comes home. So Sarah and I have been working, and many others have been working on making sure that the general public is more aware of this issue, and in that about a dozen private businesses will be flying the flag from about today until the next week, and it's everything from sports teams to defense contractors and sort of everything in between. And so what we're really hoping is to spark conversation, to make sure that employees, customers, the general public seeing the flag flying are interested. It sparks interest, it sparks conversation, and they look more into the issue. And not only to become more aware of the potentially dangerous countries to travel to, but also of the plight of all of the American families who, hostage U.S. and all others work with day in and day out, and who are fighting for their loved ones. I think it primarily, for me, hopefully, will also reassure families that there is a community around them that isn't just government, and it isn't just people who've been affected by it, but businesses, like very large businesses that are willing to fly this flag, that are interested in the issue, that want to show their solidarity, having no personal connection to the issue, just recognizing that it is, as Representative Stevens said, a bipartisan issue, that all Americans want to bring all Americans home, and that we have no more hostages and wrongful detainees held abroad.
Thanks so much, Liz. I am really excited about the flag flying. I will say I've heard some ballparks that are flying, not the Yankees yet, so I'm going to very publicly call to action for the New York Yankees to also fly the flag in the future for my big Yankee fan son. With that, I think, speaking of the flag, I think it's time to go over to the flag raising ceremony, so I'm going to reintroduce the lovely Liz to wrap us up here. And thank you, all of you, for such powerful testimony to how important recognizing hostage issues are.
Thank you to our panelists, and thank you for all coming today as part of the extended SEPHA family. I'm going to be kind of orderly dismissing you just so we don't clog the only 2 working elevators in this corridor. Just a reminder, there's going to be restrooms upstairs, so please just head directly to the elevators. No coats, no large bags, so those need to be checked in C Street. First, I'd like to invite our returnees and our families to please stand up and exit. There will be SEPHA people to direct you to the elevators. So my group right here, if you could please